Hello and welcome to the Waybe tutorial. The purpose of this tutorial is to introduce you to the concepts and skills that you'll need to design things in SketchUp and then to use the Waybe tools to unfold and build those designs. So the first step before you can do these things is to install the programs. First you can double click on the Google SketchUp exe file and that'll walk you through a wizard and you can install that. And then finally install the Waybe Windows installer, which should automatically deposit its files into the right plugins directory. And I'll just double click on that installation file to show you what directory that should look like. So the default is the program files Google SketchUp 6 plugins directory. Mine's already installed, so I won't go ahead and install that. The only real thing to remember here is to first install Google SketchUp and then install the Waybe's window installer in that order. SketchUp and Waybe installed, let's open up SketchUp by double clicking on the Google SketchUp icon. That should take you to a screen that looks like this. Now SketchUp is an excellent 3D design program like SolidWorks or AutoCAD, and it lets the user design all sorts of interesting objects. The beauty of SketchUp is how easy to use and intuitive it is. So let's make something simple. Start by clicking on the square looking button which says rectangle when you hover over it, and draw yourselves a square. It doesn't matter what the dimensions are. You'll see there's a little line, dotted line, that tells you when it's a golden section and when it's a square. I'm going to make a square, but it's not important. This tool here, the orbit feature, you can click on that and that just lets you move around the screen. So I'm going to design sort of the bottom portion of a pyramid, and in so doing, the first tool that's going to help me here is this offset tool. If you look at the top here, it says offset. I'm going to click on an edge, and what the offset tool lets you do is build a dimension with the same relative dimensions of the edge that you clicked on, but with different absolute dimensions, as you can see. So I'm going to click that, get rid of this face. It'll become apparent what I'm doing here pretty quickly. Now I'm going to double click on this, which is going to select all the entities of that inner group, all the attached entities. I'm going to go up to the top again and grab the move tool. So we've already hit a few tools. Move tool lets me move a selected group of entities around. So I'm going to click on the face and I'm going to move it up along the blue axis here. So let's put it right there. And now let's just pan around a bit so you can see what it kind of looks like. Okay, and then to finish up the bottom portion of this, I'm going to grab the line tool, which is the most basic drawing tool you have, and I'm going to grab these corners, and it's really nice in SketchUp. It'll find the corners nice and easy for you. So I'm going to grab that corner and attach it for each part of our pyramid. And you can see as I'm making this, it auto-completes the faces that have 4 or more lines, basically faces that enclose an area. It'll put a face there for you. Okay, so we have the first part of our pyramid here that we're going to use in the future lessons here. But yeah, that pretty much closes up the design section. There's definitely a lot more you can find out about how to design things in SketchUp. I would invite you to go to the SketchUp website to build your skills with SketchUp tools. There's a lot you can do. So now we're going to move on to grouping and sizing. I want to introduce before we move on to grouping and sizing is the push-pull tool. So the push-pull tool looks like that one. You can click on that. And what it lets you do is it lets you click on a face and then drag that face, and it'll push it or pull it depending on how you drag it. So let's do that to the top face and just pull it up an arbitrary amount. So here's the object. Now let's say we want to make this object. Let's start by introducing you just to what the basic idea of Waybe is, and that is unfolding. So if you click on the unfold object icon and then click on any of these faces, it should automatically unfold the object for you. And on one side you'll see in cyan highlighted tabs to differentiate between the tabs that have been created for you to ease the assembly, and then the other part of your design. And the final note about this unfolded object is the red highlight that is added to it. And what's that basically saying is that the dimensions on this object, on this component, are too large to allow it to print out on paper. So let's just see if that's a valid concern. So if you take the tape measure, you can get an idea of how big this is. So this one here is about 4 meters across, so clearly it's too big to print out. And that just gives you lets you know if the object you design is too large and if you need to scale it down. And there's lots of scaling features in SketchUp to make that easy enough to do for objects that you do happen to create too large. So let's click on the undo unfold so we bring it back. And now we're going to move into grouping and sizing.